So when it comes to hiring, one of the hard parts is getting resumes in the door. But once you get those resumes in the door and you started the interview process, it is important that you treat these interviewees well. If this interview process does not go good, it can really damage your reputation. If you think a disgruntled customer will ruin your reputation, try someone who's gone through your interview process that was poorly treated. So let's talk a little bit about the interview process and what it should look like ideally. In a perfect world, an interview process should not be any more than 2 weeks. You do not need to start interacting with candidates unless you are ready to hire them immediately and you have your calendar clear to be able to bring them in through a process that is an appropriate amount of time. So 2 weeks is really the ideal time. First interview really isn't an interview. A phone interview is really more of a screening. I don't really consider it an interview. It's a, hey, should we have this conversation type of interview. The phone screen is going to screen for things like major skill sets, availability and interest in interviewing for a job, location to see if they have an acceptable commute, pay. Yes, pay. There is no reason to have a conversation if you are too far away from each other on salary expectations. So I like to talk about money up front. I know other HR professionals will say that this phone screen is too soon to talk about it. Have a nice fat range, to wiggle inside of, but there needs to be a range, is my advice for the phone screening process. So really that doesn't really count as an interview. That is just a, hey, this is what the opportunity is. You share a little bit with them about what it is, see if there's any interest on their side. Does it make sense for us to sit down over an interview? Once you bring them in to the office for the interview, things to consider are the setting, the interview setting. Try to make it a comfortable setting. I prefer not to have a table between me and the candidate. I really like to see their whole body because as an HR professional and having been a headhunter for so long, I have studied body language extensively through my years of honing my skill and my craft as an HR professional. Also, the table kind of represents a separation. I know it can kind of feel good behind the big boss desk, but if you can do a little bit of a separation there. Think about the temperature of the room, make sure that it's comfortable, make sure that the lighting is comfortable and appropriate. Make sure that you don't have any interruptions. Let your team know that you're doing interviews. Keep your door closed so you can have a private conversation out of respect for them. And shut off your phone as well, not only your office line, but your cell phone. I actually do this little thing just out of reverence and setting expectation for the meeting, where I'll actually bring a candidate in and sit them down, and then I'll actually close my laptop or take my phone and set it down inside of a space, and then I'll turn to them and I'll warmly greet them and go, great, I'm so glad you're here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. And I look them right in the eye when I say it, and it really sets the tone that they now have my undivided attention. So many times when I've sat with clients and they're interviewing me to be a consultant with their company, they keep looking down at their screen and it's popping up and they might check their phone. And it's just a disrespectful thing to do. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. So really set the expectation. You would not allow them to be checking their phone in the interview. So hold the same standard for yourself. Something else to consider through the interview process is really being prepared with open-ended questions. Do not ask close-ended questions. I will do a whole other series on good questions to ask during the interview. This is really just about the process of interviewing, but I will say always ask open-ended questions. Then ask them if they have any questions at the end of the interview. They might not be interested in the job. And this is their out. I want to give my candidates every out possible. Quit now before I actually invest any money in you. So at the end of the interview, ask them, do you have any questions for me? Is there anything you would like clarification on? And it'll really show you how much are they really imagining themselves in this role, or are they just yes people? Yeah, okay, yeah, sounds good. When do I show up? Usually those aren't your top performers, the ones that don't really have questions about the process. So ask them if they have any questions, and then ask them if they're actually interested in the position. It's amazing to me how many employers will go, oh, the interview went great, and they call them up to make the offer, and they go, no, I'm not interested. Well, I thought you were. Well, you never asked, so ask the question.